Being attacked by a bear is pretty high on my list of things that I don't want to experience. Walking through the Canadian wilderness, I often wonder how I might react should it happen. I know all the tricks. Look big, shout, don't run. If all else fails, play dead. But who knows what I'll really do? Probably toss my half-eaten bag of sweet and salty trail mix at it, then scream and run away. Welcome to Marooned, Harrowing Tales of the Catastrophically Lost. I'm Jack Luna. This is Aaron Habel.
Jeremy Evans, born and raised in Calgary, Alberta, was an avid hunter who loved hiking in the remote Alberta Rockies in Canada. He was married to his high school sweetheart Joyce, who was a marine biologist. They had a daughter together, and she was 6 months old at the time of the incident. Now, at this time that led to his marooning, he was employed by a slaughterhouse, a place where one might become accustomed to gruesome realities, so Jeremy was perhaps toughened up more than most for what he would soon face. For 2 months of every year, Jeremy, an avid outdoorsman who was skilled in bow hunting, would hunt moose, sheep, and deer.
On August 24th of 2017, just before the start of bighorn sheep hunting season, 32-year-old Jeremy Evans was out in the Alberta Rockies scouting for hunting spots. After parking his vehicle, he pedaled his mountain bike around 8 or 9 miles along a trail. He passed one tent, and although the occupant was not inside, Jeremy knew it belonged to an older man he had seen before. He then passed a pair of men further down the trail, who he said were surprised to see someone zipping past on a mountain bike. From there, he made his way to Crying Canyon, a place where Jeremy knew there would be no other people due to its difficult terrain. He liked going to Crying Canyon, as it was populated by the sheep he was scouting, and it also allowed him some solitude out there. It was a place he knew well, and he had been going there for over 15 years. The trails ended, and he carried his bike over boulders, then walked it up a drainage to reach the tree line.
While at a standstill and standing next to his bike, Jeremy quietly watched a dozen sheep off in the distance through his binoculars. They were ewes and their lambs. He wasn't looking to hunt them, but he found himself watching them for quite some time. He loved being in untouched wilderness like this. He said, "I had my binoculars up and I was watching some sheep. I brought my binoculars down and I noticed a little brown thing running in front of me about 10 feet away. I knew right away it was a bear cub and I was like, oh shit, where's mama?" Unfortunately for Jeremy, the mother was right behind him, only a few feet away.
So he heard a noise behind him. It was branches snapping under the weight of something heavy. Grizzly bears are well known for aggressively protecting their cubs and will fight anything that is considered a threat and gets too close. They will even attack male grizzly bears. A female grizzly in Canada weighs on average between 176 to 400 pounds. When on all fours, they are around 3.5 to 4.5 feet, but they get to around 8 feet when standing up on their hind legs. They have a bite force of nearly 1,000 psi, strong enough to crush a bowling ball. Aggressive behavior is part of the bear's survival strategy, and they will often charge at anything perceived to be a danger to them and their offspring. This particular bear, unfortunately, saw Jeremy as a threat. A real-life monster was about to enter and attempt to end this hunter's life.
The bear spray he had brought with him was buried at the bottom of the backpack, and his gun was strapped to that pack. He took just a moment to chastise himself for not having these items at the ready. The grizzly was on the attack and moving fast, so Jeremy lifted his bike up as if it were a shield. He felt in that moment as if time had slowed and that he could do nothing to stop her. The bear took a swipe at him, and the large paw got stuck in the rear spokes as the bear's head moved through the frame of the bike. Jeremy somehow grabbed the pack to move it between the teeth of the grizzly and his body. The bear bit his hand all the way through, then bit the backpack and shook it mightily. Jeremy hung on for dear life. She released the pack, and he swung it hard down on the top of her head. This seemed to give her pause, so he began to retreat. He also began to try and release the gun, but as he was about 10 meters away from her, she rushed him again. He threw his pack at her and made his way up the steep mountainside, looking for a tree to climb.
Yeah, Aaron, I mean, it goes to show you could be as prepared as you like. Like, he has a gun, he has bear spray, but there's unexpected attacks that can happen in the wilderness involving bears that you are no match for if you're, he's not sitting there holding his gun at the ready with the safety off loaded up. He doesn't have his bear spray in his hand. In this situation, the bear comes up behind him and basically jumps him, which is wild.
Yeah, what I would say is, having read his book, it
Hmm.
really feels like that first episode that we did where I talk about having a whistle because you could scream for help, but your voice will give at some point because you'll be screaming a lot over a long period of time. Well, in this case, if you're bothering to bring the gun, you're bothering to bring the spray, you might as well have it at the ready because if you don't have it at the ready, you might as well not have it. I mean, Jeremy makes it clear that this was probably some type of oversight because he had gotten so comfortable going out there. And
Mm,
I don't know if it's funny enough, but he had had a prior encounter with a bear and used bear spray on it. And I think that would have been his go-to. He got too comfortable, I guess. And
yeah.
so when he was packing that stuff, it became, well, I'll need this instead of, I might need this at the ready.
Yeah. I think you probably imagine that you'll always have time. You'll always hear it coming or see it coming. It sounds like he just heard something, like the bear was creeping up behind him, And
He had no idea how close he was to these cubs. And I have the
no,
feeling that maybe they had just been there that whole time. And then there was movement. And then, of course, he reacted. And now he's this threat.
right, right. Yeah, I don't want to make light of it either, but I really do picture the bear as like bipedal in this moment, like it's just standing up and kind of creeping up behind him and then steps on a twig, snap, uh-oh. And he starts to turn around and just grabs him in a bear hug and starts tearing at him. And obviously that's not the case. I'm just amazed that it was able, with its size, to sneak up on him, only making the sound of a snapping twig at the last moment for him to realize how much danger he was in. These bears are sneaky, man.
Well, again, it's their area. This is basically their home, and
Yep,
he's visited it. He just didn't
absolutely.
know he was in their living room.
Hmm.
So Jeremy makes it to a spruce. He's climbing up this tree, and suddenly he feels the bear's breath on him. She bites into his right knee and then just pulls him right off the tree. So he hits the ground at the base of the tree and he grabs onto it with all of his strength and just lays as still as possible. But that's when the mother bear starts biting his belly, his abdomen. And then she just pulls him away from the trunk like, like nothing, and
Yeah.
then flings him through the air several feet away. She picked me up and shook me like a rag doll and threw me on the ground, he said, adding, before I can even take a breath and curl up in a ball, she bit me on the left side of the face. So he knows he's supposed to protect himself by curling up into a ball to
Yeah.
protect most of his body. But this is the thing about bears is they're not a tiger. They're not going to go for a certain area of your body. The bear will literally bite what's available.
Yeah.
And that's how they eat people too, is they'll just eat whatever is available. They don't go for your throat or something.
Yeah. The word is maul. They'll maul you, whatever they grab. So once on the ground, the bear, like you said, begins biting at his face. Here's a quote from Jeremy again. When she crunched down, she removed the whole left side of my face in one fell swoop. On how it felt to play dead, he said, it kind of sucked when something's chewing on your face. Jer-
You think?
yeah. Yeah. It's hard to play dead when something's chewing on your face. No doubt about it.
He's like, hey, I'm acting here,
Yeah. Don't you get it? I'm dead. And it's chewing. Oh, man. So Jeremy eventually, he's able to fight back, punching the bear's face and gouging at its eyes. He grabbed the tongue from the bear's gaping jaws and pulled on it, later recalling how it felt like leather and how the bear then began to gag. He realized the bear's stomach, which was covered in much less fur, was a sensitive spot, so he grabbed at it, twisted the skin, and that sent the mother bear running. As soon as he was in the clear, he retrieved his cell phone from his backpack and took a selfie to inspect the damage, and this is tough to look at. You can see it in the show notes if you like. Viewer discretion is advised for sure. I mean, this is unreal, his face, Aaron.
Yeah, it's pretty horrific. I don't know that most people have ever seen anything quite like this. The
Yeah.
damage that is in this picture. It's a lot.
It's a lot. I don't want to make light of it, but like when I first saw that, I my mind wouldn't allow me to realize that that's an actual face. It looked like a mask, a Halloween mask. Like there's a show, I don't know, like Spaghetti Man, like Spaghetti Face or something.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Jeremy's reaction was not initially what one would expect. He was in shock. He said he knew his injuries looked bad, but didn't quite realize how bad they were at the time. His first thought was anger and disappointment that he couldn't go sheep hunting. Unsure of what to do now, he kneeled on the ground to load his rifle. However, he was interrupted when the mother bear returned for round 2. Again, the bear had snuck up behind him, this time clamping its jaws around his entire skull. He recalled hearing a sound like ice cracking, and he felt completely numb.
Yeah, the bear then thrashed him around by the head, and it's clawing at Jeremy. I said that like Forrest Gump. I just watched Forrest Gump. Jeremy. And she's clawing at Jeremy. A large portion of Jeremy's scalp is ripped off, his skull smashed and exposed, and his neck is injured. His jaws dangling from his face and his left eye is hanging from the socket. The tendons in his leg are severed, and he's hemorrhaging blood. His hands, they're injured. His fingers, they're pointing in all directions, he'd later say. They're all broken, busted up. He didn't know it yet, but one of his ears had been ripped off in the attack. Jeremy would later say the bear nodded his head like a dog gnawing on a bone. He began fighting, gouging, pulling at the soft underbelly of the bear, sending it running off once again. He scrambled for his rifle. His vision was impaired, though, and he was unable to find it. He did find pieces of his own face that had been ripped off in the struggle, however. He described finding pieces of himself on the ground around him, saying, "I found a piece of flesh with a little bit of bristles on there, and some soft spot, which is part of my mustache. I found another larger chunk that felt like hard cartilage. This was a piece of my ear and a piece of my scalp. So I picked that up off the ground. I was sitting there holding a piece of my face. I knew I wasn't going to make it."
He eventually located a clip for his rifle and fired 3 consecutive shots. Now, this is the way he describes things, is his face is in tatters, and he's trying to locate the ammunition for his rifle. Jeremy was in the middle of nowhere, hurt and alone in the Alberta backcountry, with his abdomen torn and his leg missing a large chunk of flesh. He later described how hopeless he felt in that moment, telling media outlets, "I knew that this was it. I wasn't going to make it very far. I was bleeding out of my face, my hands, my left side, my legs. The blood was just pouring out." Not knowing if he would survive this brutal ordeal, Jeremy typed messages to his wife and 6-month-old daughter on his phone, hoping if it were returned to them, they would see it. "I'm pretty sure this is the end," he wrote, before telling her he loved her and to take care of their baby. I was sitting there thinking, this is it. This is the end. He had written these messages, mostly to Joyce, mostly to his wife. But the thing is, it's kind of ironic. He went out to this remote area because he knew that no one else would be out there, at least people.
Right.
But now the injuries he suffered are catastrophic. That's the word we use on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't have any chance, really, of someone just running across him.
Yeah. Didn't want to be bothered, and he's quite bothered now by all this bear has done to him. And the photo he took of himself, man, he's got that photo, and then he's got the goodbye note. It's a pretty rough goodbye note there if they ever do find it. So it was then Jeremy said that he felt a calm sweep over him, and this often happens in these situations. As for what he could do, he later recalled, there were a couple of options. Jeremy sat down on the ground, took out his rifle, and placed the barrel up against his chin. The rifle, however, did not go off. His first attempt at taking his own life had failed. He then tried again, and although this time his rifle fired, it missed his face by inches. And I'm going to guess that maybe it missed because his face wasn't really all there. He took it as a sign to not continue trying to take his own life at this point.
I think the other problem, though, is he's so badly injured. I can imagine that he's probably shaking. He probably can't steady this thing as well as you'd think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
he suffered trauma, major trauma.
Yeah, I like your take much better than mine. I'm saying, I don't know. I think I'm delirious. I mean, looking at that photo and it's unbelievable that this bear went at him a couple of times. It was like a round 2. Man. So he drags himself and prays that he's going to find another soul along the way. He wants to get his body to a less secluded spot where there was more of a chance someone would find his remains. He began instinctively putting the torn pieces of his head and face where he thought they should go on his skull. And then he tied a sweater around his head to keep those pieces in place. The knot of the sweater held up his swinging jaw.
Yeah, I think he had suffered several attacks from this bear overall. And
Yeah.
I just have to reiterate here, though, that, when he's trying to take his life, it's not because of his despair. He really felt like he was doomed anyway, and he didn't want to suffer for the next so many hours before he finally passed.
Gotcha.
But,
Yeah.
but with that shot missing, it's it's that sign that says, hey, and it's because all of us have this. It's a survival instinct.
Mm-hmm.
And we really don't want to give up. We don't want to die.
Mm-hmm.
And so he took that as a sign. And also thinking about his daughter. I mean, he wants to see her future. He wants to see who she grows up to be and everything. So
Yeah.
he's gonna do his best to survive now, but he's been through hell. So he's
Mm-hmm.
barely able to walk. He can't really put any pressure on his legs. So he ends up falling down a steep bank, rolling down the entire thing, hitting every boulder in his path.
Man.
And you can just imagine that. When he finally came to a stop, he lay there, took out his phone, and he attempted to play some music, hoping to be lulled peacefully into the arms of death. Again, it's not he's like going to take his own life, but he is accepting that he probably can't survive this situation. It's so remote. I mean, he's about, I don't know, I think he's like 14 kilometers from his vehicle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he's trying to press the screen, but keep an eye.
Well, yeah.
Well, there's a, yeah.
Yeah.
His eye is dangling by a thread. So
Mm-hmm.
he's pressing at the screen, but he really can't see things very well. But suddenly his phone begins playing the Baby Shark song. This is a song he had played for his daughter just the night before. And hearing it snapped him out of his decision to give up. And he rolled over and pulled himself up. He was from this moment on going to handle this whole situation much differently. But I mean, I'm sure everyone's heard this Baby Shark song.
Do you want? I haven't heard it. Can you sing it for me?
Now I know you've heard this. I know you've heard the song.
I've heard it. I've heard it. It's almost comical if it weren't so grisly. A grisly attack that just occurred to him. But him hitting every boulder, it just reminds me like when Homer Simpson, didn't make the jump over the gorge, like just hitting everything on the way down. The guy's just been through hell here. And then this Baby Shark song pops up. It's almost comical, isn't it? But it's also very sweet. It's also very sweet, right?
But I can hear it. It's like Baby Shark, doot, doot, doot,
there
doot,
it is.
Baby Shark, doot, doot, doot. And it just keeps going on. Then it goes to Mommy Shark, to Daddy Shark. And,
Yeah.
it's a cute little song. I get why, it's big thing. But it amazingly, this is just this sweet little kid song. And it's kind of giving him the juice to get up, So now he's getting up. And he's got the thoughts of ending his life. Those are behind him. But he also knows no one is going to save him. He's going to have to save himself. He's marooned out there.
Yeah.
I mean, by all accounts, there's no way that he should be able to really rescue himself in this situation because he's been mauled so badly. He's lost so much blood that if you say, okay, you just have to go 14 kilometers to your truck, he has to figure out where that is.
Yeah. He doesn't even know where he is. It's unbelievable, man.
So he's pulling together all of his willpower, using whatever energy he has left.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts dragging himself. And of course, he's falling and rolling multiple times along the way. He's trying to get back to that trail from which he had first come.
Mm-hmm.
And all the while, his phone is playing Baby Shark the whole way, which is his daughter's favorite song.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. So he's desperately crawling. He finally makes it to a camp, but nobody's there. Unable to use his fingers, he trashed the place looking for supplies and a way to contact someone in this remote cabin.
Yeah, remember what his fingers look like. They're spread out in all directions.
Yeah. He said that they're pointing everywhere. Hard to find your way when your fingers are pointing you all different directions, Aaron? But he wrote a courteous note to the owners of the camp, apologizing and explaining his situation. Since he had had no cell phone service, he had hoped to find a radio or satellite phone he could use to call for help, but there was nothing like that in the cabin. The note that he left for these owners of this cabin was this note here, quote, "Sorry, was attacked by a bear. It's really bad. Was looking for a radio or sat phone. Sorry about the mess. I don't think I'm going to make it. My wife is Joyce. Tell her I love her. I feel very weak. Lost too much blood." End quote. And Aaron, oh my God. Like this guy, eh? Sorry, man.
This is proof, Luna. They always say Canadians are polite.
Yeah.
See, I would have told him, like, I think they'll understand. You can tell him later. But he still managed to scroll this out with his hand that was in better condition.
Yeah.
I mean, this is amazing to me that he's still worried about the damage he did to this cabin when this bear ended him.
Unbelievable. Wow.
He ate some canned meat through the hole in the side of his face and squirted juice boxes into his mouth for energy. Remember, if you're not going to look at the pictures, just understand his face is in tatters.
Oh my God.
He then located some tissues and bandages and began trying to piece himself back together the best he could, reconnecting his jaw to his face. He then left the camp, taking 5 juice boxes with him, drinking one for every mile, and leaving the discarded cartons behind like a breadcrumb trail.
This guy's incredible, Aaron. I mean, he's still thinking too. He's doing everything he can. So, despite his injuries, Jeremy managed to drag himself all the way back to his vehicle eventually. It had taken him 8 hours. Since he'd been violently attacked, it had been 8 hours. And with great difficulty and extremely limited vision, he had managed to get back to, and then into his car, and then drive to the end of the trail, where he stumbled into the reception office of Panther River Lodge, a small family-run lodge. The road there is so dangerous that drivers are warned to traverse it at their own risk. He was willing, obviously, at this point, to take that risk.
So we already said he was a shocking sight. So just imagine Jeremy. He had been completely mauled, covered in blood, missing an ear. He has one eyeball hanging from the socket. He's standing in the entrance of this place. A small child exclaimed to their grandmother, "Someone's playing a prank on us." Jeremy told them he had been attacked by a grizzly bear, and the staff quickly called for help. Shock Trauma Air Rescue Service, that sounds perfect for this situation, they were unable to get to him, and an ambulance that was called became lost on the way. Talk about remote. I mean, even these rescue services, emergency services, can't reach him.
Yeah.
The inn owner's daughter, Amanda, she was 18 years old, put Jeremy into the back of her vehicle and called her dad, who flew helicopters, for help. Time was of the essence, but it would take half an hour for the helicopter to arrive.
Meanwhile, Jeremy made small talk with Amanda from the back seat of her vehicle. Like things like, "So, how's your day been, Amanda?" Like, what do you talk about, man?
Yeah.
It doesn't even look like you could talk through this face that we're looking at. I'm sure it's all slurred and man. So Jeremy, he's so calm that he even had attempted to fish while waiting for the helicopter. And by this point, I guess the bleeding's all stopped. He's a bloody mess, but there's dirt all over him, and he's cauterized the bleeding somehow to his face by slapping his face back onto his head, tying it up like Scrooge with a toothache, and he's just sitting there calmly fishing, waiting for this helicopter to come. I got to go back there and say that was Jacob Marley, not Scrooge with the toothache, right, Aaron? Anyways.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah. Scrooge had different problems.
He did. Yeah, absolutely. So his wife, Joyce, had been called and informed that her husband had been attacked, and she was in a state of panic. Amanda's father finally arrived, and Amanda stayed with Jeremy in the helicopter while it made the 40-mile journey to the nearest hospital. Medical staff at the Myron Thompson Hospital, then named the Sundry Hospital, were panicked by the sight of Jeremy and his injuries.
Jeremy greeted them from the back of the helicopter, calming the situation throughout, and made his way into an ambulance. He was rushed to the Foothills Hospital in Calgary and went straight into surgery. Partly obscured by a towel over his face, he passed family members on his way into surgery, his eye hanging down at the edge of the towel.
Ugh.
Jeremy said his goodbyes before his operation, believing he would not survive. After all, he stopped his whole "I'm giving up" thing. But honestly, he's been through so much. It's like, how are you supposed to survive this? I'm shocked
Yeah.
that he's going straight into surgery because, I mean, this just must be to save his life because there's no way they can figure out how to put him back together. Truly, can they? I
I
mean,
know.
if
Yeah.
you see the picture again, it's like,
Oh,
how do you work with this?
yeah. Where do you start? God.
Now, during his surgery, Jeremy said he wasn't completely under and said he could remember his leg and hands being stitched up. They stitched back the ripped off pieces of his face that he had had the forethought to lay against the exposed flesh and muscles on his face and skull. If he had not done this, the tissue would have died and become impossible to reattach.
Talk about saving face. Hopefully I can save some here. So after after 13 hours of surgery, Jeremy was sedated and slept until the following day. The PTSD was almost instant, and the flashbacks came whenever Jeremy closed his eyes. His sleep was disrupted by nightmares about the bear attack, and he had someone sit with him almost around the clock. He would say later, quote, "If you touch me anywhere but the feet when I'm sleeping, I wake up into a flashback." Just over a week later, he was encouraged to attempt to walk with a Zimmer frame. He could manage only several feet in distance at that point.
Once able to walk by himself, anything that reminded Jeremy of the wilderness triggered his PTSD. His hospital stay lasted 5 weeks before he was discharged. A week later, he was back at the lodge, walking, and even partook in a spot of light bird hunting. He did eventually get back into hunting and revisited the site of the attack, with the difference being that he took a satellite phone with him at the request of his wife. Now, right there, Luna, at the request of his wife, meaning he was going to go back unaided.
Yeah.
Now, I want to go back real quick here. There's something interesting that had happened. He was not supposed to be alone on this trip that he took where the bear mauled him. He was supposed to have a new friend with him. See, his wife had a friend who was also a marine biologist, and they would talk about their lives. And eventually it came to be that they were like, our husbands are a lot alike. They both love being out in the outdoors, and this and that. But of course, this other woman, her husband wasn't as bold or as daring as Jeremy, but he was interested. So he was going to go with him.
Oh,
he was
wow.
going to attempt to do this with him. And something happened where he just couldn't go. And, that bothered his wife because she was thinking, look, you're a tough guy. You're always talking about that. You can do so many things. You can carry your bike over boulders and walk it up these steep hills and all of this. But what if something happens to you? There's no one to help. There's no one to call for help. Because there's no cell service out there.
Yeah.
So, this is most wives, most partners. They're going to look out for you,
Yeah.
because some of us, we don't really listen to reason all the time.
Absolutely. And I'll add to that, I believe often when these guys go out hunting, it's not so much that they love hunting, don't get me wrong, but a lot of them, they really like to be alone. And that's a big part of it, the solitude, like he mentioned, right? Being out in that area alone. Same with, I'd say, I could compare it to golfing. I guess a lot of wives, they're like, wow, why are you so into golf? It's like, well, really what I'm into is drinking with my friends, but we'll call it golfing.
Man, I like golf, not at all. So, I mean, that's why, like, when I hung out there, I was like, we could just go to a bar and drink. We don't have to go to the golf course.
Yeah. We'd be better off, but yeah, that's good, man.
Yeah. So, Jeremy, he is this rugged guy. He's this tough guy, but, he's got to listen to reason here. Thankfully, he has a partner who's looking out for him. Now, he started working again at the abattoir, but the atmosphere there reminded him of the attack. I imagine all the meat and all of this, it was too much. So these nightmares, they persisted, and he often thrashed and fought in his sleep. It wasn't until 4 years later, after a single session of rapid acceleration treatment, that he had his first full night's sleep with no nightmares. And he went on to release a book in 2022 titled Mauled: Lessons Learned from a Grizzly Bear Attack. He also does public speaking and has an online presence under the handle Grizzly Dude. That's different than Grizzly Man because that guy can't write a book.
No, he can't.
Sorry.
No, you're
No,
right.
Grizzly Dude. And I highly recommend Jeremy Evans' book, Mold. I bought it and I've read it, most of it anyway. I think it's a great book. His wife Joyce has a say in the book too. It's definitely worth reading because to me, we always are marveling at people who have defied the odds.
Hmm.
And when we talk about defying the odds, we've covered a lot of stories on Marooned.
Yeah,
Damn, this is up there.
way up there. Way up there. I mean, whew, dude. We often try to put ourselves in the situation, right? I mean, put me in this situation.
Well, mentally, it's a mental exercise.
It is
I'm not
mental.
going out to this area, Crying
Yeah,
Canyon.
yeah.
Yeah, no.
No way. No way. But he definitely had this toughness about him that was able to get him there. It just feels like he easily could have bled out. He was lucky in a lot of ways too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so in the book, there's a lot made about this friend of his wife's, having this conversation about our husbands and this and that. And he actually hung out with this guy one time before this event. And yeah, he was all in. He was like, "Man, it'd be so good to go out and do this thing with you. I've never really taken that kind of a risk," or, that's how he saw it.
yeah.
But he was up for it because he loved nature too. He loved being in the outdoors. And I was thinking, it's one thing to ride your bike. I don't know. Have you ridden a bike? Like, do you have a bicycle?
Oh yeah, I thought you were going to ask if I've ridden a bicycle built for two. I've done that as well.
Is this going to appear in one of our maroons? You talking about us riding a bicycle together?
Probably. Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, anyway, it's one thing to just ride it around on, say, the cement, the concrete, but it's another to be riding it off on the trail.
Yeah.
And then even more to carry it over boulders and then to ride it up or walk it up these steep hills. And I was wondering, I don't know if I'd be able to do all that. I think I can carry a bike, but I don't know if I can carry it over boulders.
Right.
I mean, he could have broken his leg out there. I'm sure his wife's thought about all this stuff, but yeah, his new friend, because they really were going to be friends. It really sounded to me like they had a lot in common, just like the wives thought. And, and it just, this is what happens. You say, "Oh, it won't happen to me." Well, when you say that, I mean, it's almost like a jinx, right?
Yeah, he's out there portaging basically with his freaking mountain bike, and not enough of that was really spoken about in the way that we told the story there. I mean, like you're saying, how rigorous it was to get out there and to get back. To get back, I mean, part of him getting back was rolling down a hill at one point. It sounded like so. You wouldn't have caught me going out on that trip. I've always wanted to go hunting myself. I've done a little bit of it, but go on a real hunting trip, kind of like this. Once you told me the detail of needing a mountain bike and climbing over boulders, I think I'd be out as well. That's tough sledding there, man.
And there's something else I wanted to read here from the book. And this is from his wife. She's talking about the night for when his surgery was going to be done. Jeremy's younger sister, Jessica, handed Joyce Jeremy's wedding ring. She said it was covered in blood and Jessica had washed it off for her. So when she got it, it wasn't covered in blood, but she knew it had been covered in blood. And she said, everyone else but me and his mom went home. And at the time, Joyce was still nursing the child, their child.
Wow.
Whose name is Abby. But she said this was really hard on her. I mean, it's already, she's already trying to take care of the baby, but then she's wondering what's going to happen with her husband. And she saw him, so she knows the extent of his injuries. She said all she could think about when he went into surgery was his green eye surrounded by red. And she said she'll never forget that.
Oh, man. No doubt.
The good news here is, he did make it through the surgery. They had to repair so many things. We don't have to tell you about all the broken bones, the shattered bone, the flesh being torn into ribbons and all of this. But for her, she said when he was able to communicate again after surgery, it was all thumbs up.
Yeah, and not down and to the side like they were previous. Also, we should mention that there are after the surgery photos in the show notes as well, and those are just as amazing as the pre photos of his injuries to me. they really did a good job of putting him back together again. I mean, he looks pretty rough, but I mean, it's not as bad as I would have thought. It looks like there's just big pieces that were able to be put back together there.
And that's the other thing, is thinking about what he went through to get his face back, essentially. You know,
Hmm.
he was a little concerned. It's really something out of Deadpool. If you ever see Deadpool,
Yeah, yeah, hmm,
and how he would make jokes about his face to
yeah,
his lady friend, and
yeah,
it's like a face you could sit on. And I guess he was cracking jokes like that. But he's
right,
also asking her, like, "Can you love me with my face like this?"
right,
So
right.
I don't know. I feel like it's really a testament to the power of love and having a really good partner. You and I can attest to, it's having that support system, because yeah, this dude's a tough guy, but you know what? No one can really do it all alone. He can do a lot alone. But in a
Hmm.
situation like this, no, if he didn't have his wife, if he didn't have Joyce, I don't know. I don't know where he.
Hey, or his daughter with that Baby Shark song pushing him along. I mean, if he's
Oh,
alone out there, he probably doesn't make it without them. Yeah. Wow. Man, it certainly takes a certain type of dude, a grizzly dude in this situation. And man, what a story here. And I know it's one that we won't soon forget, along with that image taken by Jeremy of himself, that gruesome selfie taken just after the attack. I'd say it would keep me awake, but because of the way things went and the calm demeanor of Jeremy, I'm actually feeling some kind of peace. Like he said, some peace washed over him during all this, and I felt that here at the end. I'm a little tired. You can have the rest of my sweet and salty trail mix if you like, Aaron. I think I'm going to hit the hay. Good night.
Yeah. Good night, Jack.